Welcome to a disassembly video by BN Products USA for the DC-20WH. This video is being brought to you by our wonderful service department while we go and tear this tool down. Quite often when we get new tools in, they're missing the bolts in different places. The stopper bolt especially needs to be replaced, as well as any bolts for the cutting block. The next thing to do is to run your hand all along the electrical cord to make sure the electrical cord is good. Step 2 is going to be the motor housing. Sometimes the armature comes out and then you'll have oil all over the place, so watch out for that. So you go and you remove the bolts from the back. This is going to allow you to remove the back cover, which gives you access on the DC-20 to the brushes of the electrical motor. So you just unscrew the cap and then be able to pop the brush out and pull the brush out, which needs to occur before you remove the stator housing cover. So you're watching Gene James, our service technician, who's pulling this out. So he just unscrews the cap and then you just pop the cap off, pull the brushes right out. Look at the brushes and make sure that there isn't any excessive wear on the brushes. When you go to pull the handle off, you first want to loosen all 4 of the bolts. Then you're going to want to make sure that the rear bolts are probably about 1/4 of an inch loose before you remove the front bolts for the handle. This will give you something good to grab onto after you remove the mounting bolts that attach the rear of the stator housing. So you pull those bolts out, and then you can just grab onto the handle and pull the rear stator housing off from the front of the unit. The armature may or may not stay in. It really depends on whether it gets stuck in the rear bearing or not. Be careful of the fan. You don't want to break the fan at this point if it's not broken already. So as you saw in this case, the oil popped out and because the armature came out versus staying in with the pump assembly. So to get it out, you just have to bang it on the edge and to get the armature to pop out, and then it pops out. So if it does in this case, you've got a rear in this case the rear bearing stayed in the back of the stator housing unit. To get it out, typically what we do is we end up having to drill out the back to pop it out. So in terms of armature replacement or repair, you're looking for large grooves in the armature. The next step is removing the pump housing. As you tap the pump housing loose, make sure that you only come halfway beyond where the black circles are, because otherwise they pop out and go everywhere. BN has a tool that we can provide that allows you to cover up the pump openings to keep them from flying all over the place. So basically what it is, it's a 2-piece tool, and you slide it into this small gap. As you can see, I've only got half the pump uncovered. So I can the pump housing tool slides in, and once you get the 2 pieces in place, you tighten it up, and then it'll hold the rest of the pump together while you remove the housing. So as you can see, once it's tightened, the back just pulls right off and the pump stays together so that you can move the whole pump housing at that point and you won't have pieces all over the place. The armature. As stated before, on the DC-20 we have a plastic fan, so if the plastic fan's broken, we have a tool that we sell that allows you to be able to remove the fan from the armature and replace it if the rest of the armature is in good shape. Otherwise, using a bearing remover to remove the rear bearings if you need to. In terms of the front housing, what you want to do is you want to remove the cutting blocks first, and then once you get the cutting blocks taken care of, you can then move on to removing the 16 bolts on the front. Make sure that you leave at least one in, and then there's 2 more on the back that need to be removed. So you can do that, and once you get that last one removed, yeah, you saw, make sure you've got that hand on the back so it doesn't pop out as you remove that last bolt. Removing the piston's pretty easy. It's just a matter of pulling the pump housing off, and then the piston probably going to be stuck in the pump, but a good tug out will allow it to pull right out. And then just take the spring out and remove the gasket. And then there's a bolt on the lower front that you have to unscrew. This bolt attaches to the airbag that's in the lower part of the housing. So once the screw is undone, you can reach in with pliers and pull the airbag out. Then there is the cap in the end of the airbag that needs to be removed. This airbag, you can see, is obviously deformed. It should be a round cylinder. So you run into this problem when it compresses quite a few times and eventually it's no longer in the straight. So to remove the end, you just screw the bolt in and give it a couple of taps, and with a hammer, and you should be able to pull it right out. And then you just have to replace the airbag. So that's pretty much the disassembly of a DC-20. We have additional videos where we walk through the rest of the process. There is this one gasket at the front seal for the piston. You really got to make sure that that gets replaced every single time that you disassemble a tool. So that's it. Thank you for watching. There's more videos for